All right, guys, so here's the deal. Not where I wanted to go with that. Anyway, hey, I'm Ryan the BugMan. We're at BugMan headquarters. This is our second episode where I'm with BugMan Martin. I'm going to give Martin a chance to introduce himself to bring everybody up to speed in case you don't know who this dude is yet. Either way, what we're doing is we're doing something totally off normal script. We're coming in to give you guys a little bit deeper idea as to how a relationship builds and how the connectivity has built, and most of all, where we're eventually going to end up going, both in and out of the company. The LLC is just growing like crazy right now, so that's awesome. Martin, I want to get us there real quick so we don't run out of time, because we will. Give everybody a real quick abbreviated rendition of who you are, where you live, what you do.
I'm from here, York, Pennsylvania, but I'm living in Laredo, Texas. I'm working for the USDA as an entomologist, so part-time bugman, full-time entomologist.
Excellent. So in Laredo, Texas, quick, again, abbreviation of you're working for the USDA. That's pretty general. So give me an idea of what you do, just quick.
The quick is I identify insects.
For who?
For the USDA.
For what purpose?
Oh my god.
No, really.
No. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. There's not a quick. This isn't quick.
I know. You did a good job on the last one, keeping it short and
quick.
simple. That's all I'm asking.
So generally, my job is to identify insects that are submitted by Customs and Border Protection agricultural specialists.
See?
There we go. And then after I do the identification, then I dig through the manuals to decide what kind of a treatment that trailer can receive.
Okay, we'll call it shipment. Yeah. So, okay, very good.
With the largest inland port. So all we largely get is tractor-trailer traffic. We get 10,000 a day coming through Laredo.
All right, so that gives everybody at least a sort of a sketch as to what you do there. I hope everybody gets a general idea. It's a super important job. Again, USDA. Martin is our only degreed entomologist, and he does a super cool, super important job. Outside of Bugman stuff that he does for me, he's multifaceted with this company. He's fully qualified to do programs. He is our infield production manager, typically when we're traveling, when we're going places, and we're going to talk a lot about that in a minute. I rely on Martin for a lot of stuff. I rely on Martin to keep me organized to a degree. I rely on Martin to tell me where to stand and when to talk, and he's in charge of videographer for the most part, the photography and a lot of the videography for a lot of those infield videos. Those are the kind of things I rely on Martin for. I've relied on him for completely different things prior to this, that aspect of traveling, but now that he's in Texas and I'm in Pennsylvania still, he's limited to what he can do, but
I'm the shaky cam.
He's and heavy breathing. He's limited to what we do, or what he can do for me, so I put him to task whenever I can utilize his talents, which are, again, multifaceted, so that's very cool. It's good to have somebody like him here. So, Martin, going on from where we left off on the last episode, because that was kind of a fun episode that we delved into some neat stuff. I want to talk more in this case. I want to invest this episode as much as we can to talk about some of the travel that not only you and I have done together, because that's, of course, where the fun for you and I is. I want to talk about some of the travel that you and I have done on an individual basis. I don't so much want it to become bragging and pedestals from us to the viewers. I do want to at least be able to acknowledge that we have some experience there, that we've done some really cool things, and that we have gone some really cool places in our lives that we are blessed to be able to have done, not only individually, but also together. So I want to put you there in that moment. I want to get us there and say, what can you think of on an individual basis? What have been some of your highlighted travel experiences just on an individual basis for you?
Well, I mentioned last episode, pretty much every trip to the Pine Barrens, every trip to Arizona. I was living down in McAllen for work for about a month and a half.
McAllen where?
McAllen, Texas, sorry. So getting to see the Rio Grande Valley and all of its mosquitoes was really fun. It's just, for birders, that's like how we go to south Tucson and bounce between the border and Tucson for a week. Birders will go to that part of Texas and do the same thing from pretty much Laredo all the way down to Brownsville, follow the entire Rio Grande Valley.
Yeah.
It's insane birding. You see stuff that you don't see anywhere else, that you shouldn't even be seeing there. Just my whole experience in Texas, if you want to look at it,
Yep.
I view it almost very temporary in my life. It's a stepping stone. It's part of the career. So even though I live there, I view it as like a working travel, almost like I'm away for school. But
You recognize it as a non-permanent stone. You're not like cementing your feet in and planning to stay in Laredo forever.
No.
So you recognize that everything you're doing in Laredo right now, job and personal related, is still temporary. Because you know there's bigger changes coming and presumably better changes. That's awesome. That's good. We're definitely going to go into some of that. I don't want to do that yet though, because I want to focus on travel. Most people who know me, most people who have been connected, know that I've done a lot of worldwide travel, more so than a lot of people, let alone a lot of people I know. And I don't want to throw that out there as if I'm bragging about it, because in all honesty, I would never have done near the amount of travel I've done without a huge variety of people in that time in my life, in that era in my life, where folks like, even you were in college, and you had all those choices to not go to school or go to school, and go in the military or not, or get married and not, all these things that you had that choice at in that point in your life. I had those same choices when I was that age too. I was given an opportunity that I don't know too many other people that were given at the time, and that was to start traveling.
And that's unique. And it's funny that you mention that, because that's one of the things that I love about working for my agency, is I get to travel, or I have the opportunity to travel for work very often all around the United States. And, for anybody else who's interested in getting a job in any federal organization, but especially USDA, you can go, sky's the limit, but you need to be willing to move.
Sure. Yeah,
So
I would say a lot of
travel is a huge
federal jobs in general are like that. I know a lot of people that work for the, like federal wildlife, and I know, those national parks is a good one. I know a lot of people have done working for the national parks, but they also end up working for many.
Yeah.
And about every 2, 3, 4 years, they bounce. They go to a new one. I think that's awesome. I think it's great.
It's part of the lifestyle.
And,
for better or worse, it's made my personal relationships, it's hard.
Yeah.
So if you're ever thinking about getting married to or dating a federal employee, some of us work long hours, some of us have to travel. We get voluntold very often.
Voluntold. I like that.
So travel is, I know we want to keep it fun about travel, but sometimes travel isn't fun.
Well, fortunately, for me, it's always been fun.
Yeah.
But that was a choice, because I never did it as a hard career. And even now, what I do, the travel that I do or that we do, is always a choice. We don't have to go to Arizona. We don't have to go to Florida. We don't have to do these things.
But
we choose to do those because we're not stupid, and we say, heck yeah. So, hell yeah, we're going to Arizona, and yeah, we're going to go to Florida. We're going to have fun, and we're going to do that.
Let's talk about how the last Arizona trip kind of came to be. We tried to do a mad dash run to Arizona right in the middle of peak COVID.
Well, hang on a second. I want to go back to 2017 for our very first one.
Okay.
The pre-COVID one.
Yeah, but that's not...
That wasn't a company trip.
No.
That was me taking you to Arizona because I wanted to do something as cool for you as people did for me. I was sort of
And it's wild because that ended up being my second time in Arizona that year.
Yeah, you and your dad were.
Or my third time in Arizona at all, but that was the second time that year, but my second real collecting trip there too.
Sure.
And it's weird being in a place and being in the same places with 3 different people for 3 different reasons, and it's just that in itself is an experience that you can reflect on.
Yeah, so we've been to Arizona more than once together. We've done some stuff that didn't, the first trip again wasn't a company trip. It was I'm going to Arizona and I'm taking Martin with me because Martin deserves to have that opportunity, and that turned out to be awesome. I mean, I don't think there were too many aspects of that trip that didn't just weren't.
No part of that wasn't fun.
Yeah. Everything. I still have specific memories of that.
I think Ryan's one of the probably 2 people in this world that I could be stuck in a car with for a week or more and not have any issues.
Yeah, that's you got to trick you got to pick your travel buddies carefully, because when you're traveling with me for the sake of bugs and insects, it's not going to be 4 and 5 star hotel. It's not going to be 1-star hotels. It's going to be you're sleeping in the car, you're running lights all night, you sleep a couple hours midday, and you line yourself up for the next adventure that evening, that afternoon, especially that overnight. That's how we roll, and nothing has changed. That's how my trips. That's how I organize the BugMan company trips that we take now, where I take team members with me. That's how it goes. And I tell everybody going in on this is how it's going to be. And I don't give them frills, and I don't give them entertainment. We're there for a very specific reason. More of it is content and connectivity with other people in the region and things like that. Now than before it was just let's go catch bugs. Now it is way more delved into creating content, and bringing as many people as we can into those experiences, so that you guys can also have as much fun as we're having without actually being there, which is tough. I think they get that. Are you able to at all, looking at my cheat sheet again, are you able to express, and when you talked a little bit about some of it, what kind of highlights, just pick 2 or 3, but what kind of highlights, what things stand out the most as best that you can about, because I took Alex to Florida with me. You didn't get to go on that trip, but you did go to 2 Arizona trips with me. So what kind of highlights do you remember that stand out the most about either of those 2 trips?
Probably the first time that we got to experience Casey's batshit crazy bright setup.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
you see pictures of people who have collected either out west or in South America and Southeast Asia, and they can turn a sheet black. Okay. And that was the closest I've ever seen to that.
He's talking about Casey Smith out of Arizona. He's our Arizona connection. I got BugMan Steve and Casey Smith. Casey Smith is basically my supply coordinator and my logistics coordinator, and those are high-tech terms that are not even official. But these are people that connect with us. Steve is doing programs. He's my Arizona, Tucson, Sierra Vista, and Phoenix. And Casey bases out of Phoenix, but KC is our base, basically where we base out of in Phoenix. He will hook us up with vehicles. He'll hook us up with lights and supplies. He'll make it as easy and as low key for us to just show up, throw everything into the back of the truck and go, versus having to travel with 2 tons of stuff. Casey Smith, you do that for me, buddy, and I appreciate you. And that's what he's talking about. Casey is a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of entomology knowledge, and he has amazing blacklight systems. And I'm not going to sit and tone them down to say that they're the best I've ever seen, but they are easily equivalent to everything I've experienced. Outside of a few foreign trips where you're standing in the middle of rainforest running lights, those can be pretty insane. But in the United States, in the U.S., running lights at night, Casey has taught us how to improve on what we were already doing.
For years, we thought we had it.
Well, we did, because it was getting the job done. And I've been blacklighting in Arizona since the 80s. And I've seen some really good nights. I've seen some good results. But I see consistent results from him, even on nights that I would not expect.
But to be fair with Casey, I don't think it's just the knowledge or the design he has for a setup, but it's also he pays attention to the weather, the location. He follows when things are hatching. Yeah. So all of that combined, I don't think it's just his, putting an airport worth of lights out in the middle of the desert, but it helps.
Sure, yeah, and that's all stuff that falls back where we, in turn, learn those same things and the same importances and how to differentiate. But also, it ends up benefiting us. It benefits what our goals.
Yes, absolutely.
So again, it's again, I'm blessed to have these people that are in the circle that are so willing to just stop and drop what they're doing and jump in and be part of it. And not only do that, but do it with enthusiasm.
Yes.
This is a guy who is selfless on every level, and is willing to do everything he can for whatever travel cause we have going on. And he travels on his own too. Casey does a lot. So we can keep talking all about Casey all day long. I do that in enough of the videos as it is.
No, but he's an MVP.
But he is seriously a very, very important aspect and a truly good person, and I love having him connected. Other than awesome blacklight nights, what else can you remember? Any highlights from some of those trips?
Well, I guess it's not blacklight nights, but blacklight indirect. Finding out that our little blacklight flashlights will attract tarantula hawks.
Oh, wow. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were doing a scorpion hunt. Wow, Vico Valley. We were doing a scorpion hunt
and this little
with KC. Again, this falls. We were doing a scorpion hunt. And those little, all we did was had little ultraviolet flashlights.
Yeah.
But we triggered a whole swarm of tarantula hawks.
We probably had 4 or 5 of them. I think it was like 2 females and a couple males.
Oh, yeah.
Come swarming around us. And
yeah, tarantula hawks are really big wasps that go out at nighttime. The females hunt tarantulas, and the male wasps hunt the female wasps. So if you find a female wasp, odds are there's going to be a male somewhere nearby.
And they're generally harmless. They're big. They're creepy looking, but they're probably one of my favorite insects, always have been. But it's, one thing when you see them flying around when it's bright out, or when you can or when you can swoop them off like agave flowers or something. But it's another thing when you're holding a flashlight and now you have tarantula hawks crawling on your hand.
Yeah, there's part of that in the one Arizona video we did. If you missed that video, go back and check that Arizona video. That's pretty cool. That was one of our, I think that was the first. I think that was episode 1 in our series of Arizona adventures. So yeah, go back and check that out because it's pretty cool. Wow, dude, that's a good one because I'd forgotten all about that. I have.
What about you? What's your standout from our trips?
There's so much. And that's such a good one.
That's why it's hard to.
Probably my favorite aspects are not, weirdly enough, are not going to be when we're collecting, are not going to be when we're even necessarily playing with insects. I enjoy just being with the team. I enjoy when we're all hanging around, like you, me, Steve, and Evan Waite sitting around, and Logan sitting around at the Black Lakes, doing nothing. We're just sitting around. It's kind of like putting a campfire up, and you sit around and you just talk and hang out at a campfire. But we do that in front of light sheets. We do that because we're waiting on bugs to show up. The same type of thing, but the camaraderie, the unique variety of people, the unique experiences when we have that kind of quality of people to hang out. And I missed KC on that list too. But when we have that ability to hang out, I've done that so many times in so many places around the world that I've always learned to slow down in those moments and absorb that. And even if I'm not even adding anything to the conversation, I love just standing back and watching that process. Absolutely. I love to watch really cool, like-minded people sit around in a calm environment where we all have individual purposes. Like nobody, I don't think, was there for the exact same reasons. We all had our own reason, even though we were there as a team. Evan's there for his research, and Casey's there because he feels compelled to do it. And he's, of course, picking up a few things. You're there to help me out, and I'm there to keep everybody safe and to babysit where I need it and to kind of keep everybody focused where I need to. We all have our own purposes. Steve is just running amok like a kid in a toy store. BugMan Steve. And Logan is doing whatever he's told. Logan just stands back, and he's the greatest gopher in the whole world. On his first trip to Arizona, and he was phenomenal. Where he's just willing to be part of it and happy to be there, and wanders off, and all of a sudden we look around and where's Logan, and he's off there, he's 100 yards away in the dark doing whatever. He's looking for bugs, but this is a guy who likes planets and stars and is going to be a rocket scientist, but he's there even in that moment for his own, finding his own reasons. That's the type of stuff I love, those moments where I can bring people together for a really cool reason, and we all have our own goals, but we end up sitting around and just enjoying each other's company and telling stories and comparing notes. And even if a lot of it isn't even bug related, a lot of it is, we're just delving into stuff, common conversation that isn't even, it's not like we're all sitting around, swapping scientific names, and arguing and debating over things. It's not like that. It never is. And I've done that in a lot of places around the world with high-level professionals in their element, where when you give them a couple beers and you pull them out of that comfort zone and you allow these folks to come out of that shell, you have some really cool opportunity. I don't ever get to hang out with Steve and KC and you all at the same time unless we do that. That's where we all have those moments. That's what's special to me. The gulls, the scorpions, the tarantulas, the stuff we find, the target stuff that we're looking for, that's easy. We're going to find those. If we got to work 10 times harder, we're going to go find that stuff. That's a given. And we do it both as a cause. We also do it for content. We do it for the BugMan programs because a lot of that stuff's coming home alive, but we're also doing it for the sake of the content. And that gives us our mission. And that's nice to be able to pull that stuff off as well. But I truly love the human connection. I love being in an environment where we're not being judged. We're not comparing. We're not debating. We're just hanging around and enjoying that company and enjoying those moments. And I don't know how many other circles of people can get together, even in a very friendly, calm environment. I don't know how many other groups can do that on those kind of levels.
I'm trying to think, like even the deer and bear camps I've participated in over the years, always something happens, whether it's someone about the biggest deer or who cooks the best. Just like weird, dumb things that turn into like little competition or whatever. But you're right, that doesn't exist. Even if it's innocent fun, innocent teasing or whatever. Yeah. That kind of competition, it's just hearing each other talk and sharing that experience of that moment with one another, sharing education and sharing knowledge. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can remember, and this is the fun part that you say that. I can remember sitting at and this is one of those times where it went horribly wrong. Mm-hmm. And that's only because you get too many people, probably a little more alcohol than was necessary. And I can honestly tell you that I didn't even partake in it because I wasn't qualified back then. Yeah. Talking late 80s, we're in Tingo Maria, Peru. We're sitting at a table with some of it. I'm not going to mention names because some of these people aren't even alive anymore. So that's not important. The point is that we sat around, and I don't want to go into a negative aspect here, but I want to go into a comparative aspect. Somewhere along the line, somebody brought up the fact, it's probably true, that all butterflies are moths. In a deep, dark, scientific way, all butterflies are moths. And knowing what I know now, I absolutely agree with that. I won't debate it, and I just don't go there with people. I'll just tell you, I know what I know, and I know enough to understand how that works. But somebody brought that up at the table, and it was a very friendly environment until somebody brought that up. And now you've got top-rated entomologists and book authors and book smart university interns, and they're all sitting around, and it's late into the evening, and the black lights are running off in the distance, but we have nothing else to do, so we're all sitting around at the table trying to drink beer. And somebody brought that up, and within 10 minutes, it got ugly. It got mean and nasty, where these guys stood at this table, and I couldn't even partake because I wasn't qualified. I'm still not qualified. But these guys were all very, very qualified to have an opinion, but they just could not accept the fact that anybody would have a different opinion. And it split into sides, and it split into weird directions where then they broke it down, and then they got deeper, and it just became this weird, angry thing. Yeah. That's the only time I've seen that happen that is memorable on that level. And that's because I was so new into traveling back then. I hadn't really started a lot of the worldwide travel. I didn't know these guys well enough, and I didn't understand how professional entomologists on a bigger scale think and how they have to feel about their opinions in a lot of cases. I don't see that. I don't see that. A lot of opinions on that. I don't see that. I don't see too much of that now because I think social media
allows everybody to vomit that out into the public and get those opinions out there to where we all kind of know where we all stand on a lot of things, especially professionals when they have the chance to get together.
No, but a lot of those people are hard to work with, but more to the point of maybe it's the environment around our lights or just the people that we choose to have in our circle. Because I know some entomologists that they would not be able to be around us 100%.
Yeah.
There would be no way that they could function. So that's why I'm saying maybe it's, it might just be the people that are in our circle rather than
that's a very good point to make. But
then I think about like Evan, that's somebody who we just happened to run into, and it's not the first time that we've just run into people.
Yep.
And it's been pleasant experiences.
Yeah, super nice guy, man. Evan Wade is a super cool dude, big into beetles, research into beetles, but he's big into birds. Yeah. He's a super nice guy. So it was neat to be able to hang out with him and bring somebody else kind of into that.
Or even like when we run into Harry. Like the one year we ran into Harry out of nowhere in Arizona. Now you and he were already friends or acquaintances.
Yeah, we knew that was going to happen
at some point. But it's still weird, bumping into somebody.
Yeah, well, that's where the networking comes in. That's where we kind of know now. It's a given. If we're going to Arizona, we know Harry's coming with us, or Harry's going to hook up with us at some point. Super fun, super neat guy. Okay, so either way, that's kind of where my basis for my highlights of travel. And it's not just the BugMan travel that I can admit that. There are lots of other trips I've been on where I've sat back and watched that same type of camaraderie, even though in most of those cases there were big, high-level entomology-minded people that were always willing to have an opinion, that were always willing to tell you how it really is, even if it's totally different from the last guy who told you how it really is. It was still neat to have those moments and to grow into that over the years of travel and the places I went, and to see the same people. I saw a lot of the same people on a lot of the same trips I went on, because it was the same groups, the same organizations, the same universities that were pulling these trips together, and they would always collect the same capable people. And I was just lucky enough to be in those networks that I was taken along. I couldn't afford to take those trips, and they were breaking some, at least as far as I know, some of those people broke some pretty serious rules in order to sign me into some of those trips and give me those opportunities. So that falls back on why I took you to Arizona. I wanted to sort of repay that to people.
And have.
And I would love to do that with other people too. Yeah. I just can't. I'd love to take the whole 4-H club to Arizona for a week, I can't do that. I mean, it sounds as simple as that sounds. You just can't do that. Yeah. But that's the type of people I would love to take along. I got people in mind that I want to take on foreign trips too. Not only you, but other people that deserve that. They deserve and they've earned that opportunity. And I feel sort of guilty that I haven't been able to do that yet. But it's still there, and I still hope to do that someday for a lot of those people. But yeah, that's my big takeaways from those is the connection between people. That's what's special to me, is to be able to get together with very, very cool people, and it's always a good time. It always begins well and ends well. Even if it seems like it's blowing up in our faces in the moment for 100 different reasons, it always ends well. And that's all that ever counts, in my opinion. So it's nice to always end those nights and those days and those trips and those moments on a high note where we realize it doesn't matter. It's all good. Who cares? Tomorrow we just reset and start again. Yeah. And it's all good. So that's cool, man. I'm glad. There's tons of other adventures, and maybe we can do a video just on that alone, where we could talk more about individual adventures. And even though I've got more extensive travel than you and some of these other folks out there, that at least, without making it all about me, and we can still tap into some more of those memories and some more of those good times.
Well, no, but I think some of that travel, at least for me, has been integral even into my professional life, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Like the amount of time that I've spent traveling and getting to see the country. Anywhere between Pennsylvania and Arizona, I've stopped there, collected there, even stopped to pee there at least once. 20-something states or 30-something states, something like that. I got to see a lot of the United States in my travels for either BugMan or my general interest in entomology. Yeah. When I jumped into moving to Texas, I hadn't been to Laredo, but I know I like the desert. I knew I kind of liked Texas. I wouldn't know that unless I've driven across Texas before. I mean, but Laredo's that's a whole other, that you're in a different world, brother.
It's a
when you're down
planet.
there.
That's a
we
whole
call it, we call it the center of the universe.
Yeah, it's a whole other planet. Because
you're not quite
for all
Mexico,
the right reasons,
you're
and
not
it's
quite
also some of the sketchy reasons that you end up experiencing. There's unique experiences there you're not going to get elsewhere.
No, and even along the Arizona border, and we've had our experiences along the Arizona border.
Yes, we have.
We've been deep in it,
Yeah, and by that he means never in danger.
No. I mean,
I don't want to make it sound like we were sketching danger and we were, fighting for our lives. No, it's never that adventurous. Fortunately,
no. But just the reality of, but I mean, no. But you never know when you're in that part of the country.
Yeah. The unpredictability of it
because you're on.
Is a legit.
You're
thing.
more or less on highways.
Yeah,
on trafficking highways for one thing or another.
Yeah. It's one of the in all honesty, guys, it's one of the few times when I'm traveling Arizona specifically, because I've done more in Arizona than anywhere else probably in the U.S. But when I'm traveling Arizona, it is common knowledge that if you're Southern Arizona border region, U.S. border region, you're armed. That's a weird thing. I go all year long in Pennsylvania catching bugs and hanging out and playing with bugs and doing bugs and insects and blacklighting all night long. And I never even anywhere remotely consider arming myself.
Yes.
But when I'm in Arizona...
But I'd like to point out for everybody, it is less about the migrants and more...
Oh, yeah.
It has nothing to do with migrants, everything to do with organized crime activities.
And that's important to point that out. I'm not armed because I'm worried about the immigrants and that's not at all it. They're actually scared to death and they leave us alone because we've got big bright lights running all night. They're not coming into our campsite, guaranteed. If anything, they're avoiding it. And that's good to know and it's safe and secure to know. But that also means by putting up big bright lights, we're making ourselves a target. We're putting ourselves out there to show everybody where we are and what we're doing. So anybody with a nefarious cause or otherwise that's going to come in and investigate is either going to be Border Patrol, who usually just drive by and wave because they see the lights and they know. Or it's going to be somebody who's coming in with intention, and that may or may not be a good thing. So there's that peace of mind that we almost have to put ourselves into, and that's part of being there. And
you get that if you were down in
America
or other parts of Mexico, Africa.
Yeah, I was going to relate it to Africa. Africa's a prime example, and this is where you want to get adventurous, go to Africa. You want an adventure, that makes Arizona look like kiddie play because in Africa, just like Pennsylvania, I can be in Pennsylvania all year long. I can walk out my front door, go for a walk. I can wade across a stream. I can swim in a pond. I can swim in a river. No big deal. I'm never one bit afraid to do those things. If you do that in Arizona or in Africa, if you do those things in Africa, you might die. And it's not necessarily the people, because that is always a danger as well. There's always that sketchy aspect of humans, and that doesn't matter where you go in the world. You're not the dominant predator. And if you're wading around in a stream or a river, if you're too close to the shoreline because you're focused on tiger beetles,
there's half a dozen things that will drag you into the
you
water.
may get eaten. And you may disappear forever, and nobody may even know that you're disappeared until it's too late. Because there's things in Africa, and it doesn't matter. I can mention any one of them, and somebody will tell me that there's always something worse. So I'm just going to leave it as a human in Africa. You're not the dominant predator, and if you don't maintain that piece, that sense.
Well, not even just that, but if you think about the diseases, I mean,
that's...
but in some of those parts, you're so far.
I'm keeping it simple though, because that gets a little deeper and a little more, entranced. But I'm just thinking in terms of comparable to Pennsylvania, comparable to the U.S. You can't just leave your tent and go for a random hike in Africa. You don't do that. You don't just leave your home and take your dog for a walk in Africa. You don't go swimming in a lake or a river without common knowledge that you're probably going to get stalked and you might actually get eaten by something and killed. That is a common aspect of being in a place like most of Africa, respectively. There are places in Africa that are perfectly safe.
Yeah, but then you have, like, I think the other very real thing, probably the thing that you can connect between a place like Arizona and Africa is the remoteness.
Absolutely.
You know,
something happens.
You breaking an ankle, or and this is what I meant about the other things that aren't going to bite you, sting you, kill you, eat you. A cut or stepping on something can, whether it's an infection or whatever, blood loss, whatever it is. You know, in Arizona, that hospital might be 5-6 hours away, and that's assuming you can even get out of the canyon.
That reminds me of something very cool. Do you remember being bitten by a black widow?
I was a baby black widow, but yeah, down in Maryland. But yeah, I mean, little things like that can happen.
Remote Western Maryland, middle of the Green Ridge State Forest. We're on our last day of a 4-day collecting trip. It's just, you, me, and Isaac, and I think that was it.
Was Alex there?
Nope.
Mr. Chico?
Nope. We had we started out the day with another family from the club, but that was Roman and his dad. They left us midway through the day. At the point you got bitten, it was just the three of us in my truck.
So
you got tagged, dude. You got tagged good.
Yeah. So essentially, what the deal was we were collecting along this roadside that had an embankment that I guess it was a cutout of the hill where
it's
they
just
built
eroded.
The road. Yeah,
it's just eroded where they cut the road through and it's slowly eroding back.
And I realized that there was a bunch of holes, and all the holes had webbing. I'm like, I'm going to go fishing for spiders, which we did in Arizona eventually.
Sure.
So, and that's really, you just take a little bit of grass and you tease it into the hole. And eventually the spider grabs onto it and you pull it out. One of the holes eventually that I came across had a black widow. So I'm teasing it, and when you feel black widow web, there's nothing in this world that feels like that. You know black widow web when you feel it. Like,
steel.
Okay, this is kind of cool. So I get my flashlight, look in there. Sure enough, you see the black little marble. I'm like, hey Ryan, do you want a black widow? And he's like, yeah, of course.
The answer is always yes.
Always give him the black widow.
The answer is always yes.
So I'm trying to dig around where I think the black widow is in this hole with my bare hands.
With his bare hands.
With my bare hands. And at some point, and I'm lucky the mom didn't get me, but at some point, I accidentally broke into the chamber, and I guess she had a fresh egg sac that had just hatched, because my hand got covered in baby black widow, maybe second, maybe third instar black widows. And sure enough, the top of my hand got red, so I was like, okay, I got bit. We gave me Benadryl, but
doubled up on Benadryl.
Just in case.
Always double up.
But that still probably didn't mess me up. I mean, I got a headache and I was a little nauseous or whatever. But do you remember when I got stung by that little orange-backed bumblebee up in northern Pennsylvania?
Yes. That was with the 4-H Club.
That was probably the worst experience of a sting I've ever had.
Which is crazy, because I didn't even make that connection.
We
should have double Benadryl you for that one, too.
So I've been stung, or bitten by a baby black widow. I think I got tagged by an emperor scorpion years ago. I've been stung by tarantula hawks, and those hurt, but none of them made me sick, these little orange-backed bumblebees that we have.
But that just falls back onto the remoteness that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're remote and something happens, it doesn't matter whether it's a broken ankle or a cut or if something bad happens and you're so far away that there's no point.
What were we going to do?
If you were going to die, you'd have been dead before we got you to the hospital, because we were 3.5-4 hours from a hospital. Yeah. So we had no choice. We double Benadryl you up, and you sit in the back seat, and we wait and see what happens.
Hope for the best.
And that's kind of what we had to do. And that is very relevant to when we're in Africa or when I'm in some of these countries I've been in, because I've had other things happen. I've had occurrences that were just inexperienced, that rookie mistakes, where I wandered into a coca plantation. I was chasing butterflies in Peru, man. It's what I do, and Martin can contest. If I go into game mode,
well, we still accidentally
you have lost me. I will wander off from the pack, and I will wander. And I got another one I want to tap into in Indonesia. I will wander away, and I will be so hyper focused on. And I think Steve's a lot like that. Yeah. But I will focus on what is happening in the here and now.
You could be cougar food.
There could be a marching band behind me playing music, and I'm I'm not going to know they're there. I'm focused on what I got going on. And I did that. I wandered right through what was a natural barrier, because I'm from Pennsylvania, and, those don't exist here. Neither do coca plantations. And I wandered right into the middle of a coca plantation, and I could hear the dogs barking and the people yelling, but I'm still focused on bugs. I don't know that's a dude whose dogs guard his coca plantation, and I didn't know that. I had no idea there was a military and coca grower battle and war going. I don't know these things from Pennsylvania. So I'm catching bugs, and the coca growers are freaking, and the dogs are coming to eat me, and they're bringing their machetes, and it got scary, where I was basically told by one of the group leaders you need to walk that way now and keep walking. Don't come back. Just keep walking, and we'll work this out. And they worked it out. But I presumably came close to death that day and would have never known it had people didn't show up when they did. That is a rookie mistake, that if you're not plugged into what's going on, and I can't say that still happens today. I can just tell you that that's how it was back in the 80s when I was learning to travel, when I was learning to make those rookie mistakes when it was important to make them.
Yes, absolutely.
And live through those things, because there's a real good chance that I'd have had a tough time talking and negotiating my way out of that. Because as far as those guys were concerned, I was in there stealing their coca plants. Yeah. And I might have been a government representative, or it could have been anything except collecting mariposas, which, I'm collecting butterflies. But that's how funny and how weird and how unique some of these things are. I relate Africa to a lot of things, because Africa is the most extreme traveling that I can do, only because a lot of places I went were even more remote. I've never been to Papua New Guinea. I can't relate too much there, and that's pretty remote too.
But I feel like if we, even on a regular hunting trip, if we ever went to Alaska, it would probably be the only thing within the United States that would be comparable.
That would be very comparable, where you're not the main predator. You're not top dog.
You have herbivores that will kick your ass.
Yep. And if they're going to come along and eat you, that's up to them whether they do that or not. There's not much you're going to do to prevent it. So yeah, I totally agree with that on a relative nature. But travel wise, there's a lot of places I haven't been. Most of those places, admittedly, I'm not yearning to go. Which is weird. I'd love to go to Australia, and I'd love to go to... There's places I would like to go, but I will probably not go there unless there's somehow a really phenomenal opportunity where that's presented to me. I'm trying to get to Arizona and not necessarily trying to set goals to get to Australia. And I've been to Arizona dozens of times, but I've never been to Australia. But that's kind of... I
think it's our priorities, because
it is. For the moment, priorities. Ask me when I'm officially retired, and I have nothing else to do, and no reason to build content, no reason to catch bugs, and maybe Australia will become a goal. I doubt it, but maybe.
Well, you go there for different things. Like, I've been invited however many times to go to Cancun. I don't go sit on a beach. I'm going to be, and I can't even bring bugs back from Mexico, but I'm going to be looking at bugs and chasing iguanas. I'm not a beach person unless there's tiger beetles, or unless there's really good fishing. That's the only two reasons why I'm on a beach. And both of those things I can't, as far as I know, legally do in Cancun.
Yeah.
So I have no reason to be there. Much to the chagrin of some of the partners I've had in my life, but
yeah, that's good stuff. See, I've never been to Cancun either. Never had the urge to go. I've been to other touristy places, but I usually turn those into bug trips. Yeah, I turned Jamaica into a bug trip. I turned even my honeymoon. I'm not married anymore, but even my honeymoon to Belize, I turned that into a bug trip.
Honeymoon was to Arizona.
I took that spare downtime and created bug time, because it's the opportunity, and because that's what I do, man. I can't help it. If you take a hunter and go to Hawaii, the first thing you're going to want to do is hunt. They're going to want to hunt. They're going to find a reason to hunt. And they're going to turn it into a hunting trip. We're running out of time here, and I want to ice this out, and I want to.
Don't stop this one.
I want to stop. I know, right? I don't want to quit either. But I can't expect people to hang around here for 3 hours, because that's just what it is. But I do want to try to end on another fun note, if you're able. I don't know if you're going to be able or not, because I'm just pulling stuff off the top. So, can you think of either the funniest or goofiest thing you've seen me do
that you've done.
And it could be anywhere. It doesn't even have to be.
No,
it doesn't have to.
And again,
you and I have hung out enough places and done enough stuff that I'm sure there's goofy things. Because these are things I'm not going to remember. So I'm hoping there's things you can remember that might jar my memory and bring those up. But it's a pretty, it's a pretty tough thing to ask.
I'm just thinking of all of our bloopers from like when we started filming.
Yeah, well, there's a bloopers. There's a bloopers video.
Yeah.
Some of those bloopers we didn't put in for all the right reasons. But yeah.
Risque. Out there in the middle of the Arizona desert like Heckle and Jekyll.
Oh, that's the second one, by the way. I haven't even we haven't done the Arizona bloopers yet, but that's a video we're putting together.
No. Again, when you have 20 years with somebody, it's hard to pick the funniest or the goofiest.
Oh no, I get that. Totally get that. That's why I say is there something funny or goofy.
Like I said last time, have you looked at yourself in the mirror?
Yeah, thank you for that. It's always nice to have support.
Now what? No, turn that around on me. What do you think is the funniest or goofiest?
I was sitting here trying to think while you were hum-hawing and stalling. I was also trying to think of it. I would probably, Martin, and I don't know if I can think of something specific, and I'll try to do better on the next episode, but it would almost have to be something that would go back to probably you in your youth, probably in the 4-H club. I mean, I could sit here and think of 4 other people who have done some horribly goofy, we'll leave it at that, things, but not you. And I don't know if that's because I'm under pressure to do that right now, or if that's just because you were, in all honesty, man, you weren't really doing crazy, goofy, stupid things. And even, especially in Arizona, you didn't make rookie mistakes in Arizona. Logan made rookie mistakes in Arizona, but you didn't. That's what I say. I can think of other people doing silly things, but you weren't making too many rookie mistakes. And whether that speaks for your intelligence, or whether that speaks for the common sense, or that speaks for your level of travel prior to those events.
It could be, but one thing that you had mentioned, and it's something that you mentioned that Casey mentioned, is so when I travel at this point, I try to, if I can fit it in the backpack, I'm good to go.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
I lived in some, I spent the money on it. I wanted to wear it. Very nice merino wool clothing.
Yes,
so I did not get stinky. So I just like being self-contained. I don't like a lot of weight. I don't like a lot of bulk.
So that was actually
I peeled it off by the time I got home.
The bad part is I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about this question the other day when we were going to get into travel, and I since forgot all about it because I didn't write it down.
Yeah.
How many outfits did you bring on that trip? Because they were all the same color, all the same style.
All tans and
every
greens.
Picture I have of you on the Arizona trip, in the Arizona videos, you are dressed in the same outfit, which I assume was not the same outfit.
For the most part, it wasn't. I think I had a pair of green shorts. I think I had a pair of green pants. A pair of tan pants, because you never know.
But it wasn't the same.
But it was like 3 different shirts.
Well, we noticed trapped in the car, you weren't stinky.
Yeah.
Because when you're stuck in a vehicle for 8 straight days, there's that thing. I have pretty good preventative measures about taking care of most of those things for the sake of everybody in the vehicle, because I'm getting kind of good at that. But at the same time, we noticed, because we had that discussion one night in front of the lights. All of a sudden, we realized you haven't changed outfits since day 1, and we're on like day 5. I think in California Gulch is when we realized that. And that was like day 5 or 6. So, but as it turns out, you did have other clothes that you were putting on. And I know for a fact you and Casey on a low end, you guys got to experience what it looks like when I take a bath in the middle of the night on the shady side of the vehicle. I refuse to let myself, get smelly on those trips. If I'm by myself, dude, I will probably stink like a pig, and I don't care because it's just me. But when I'm with other people, I cannot allow myself. But we couldn't figure out how you could wear the same outfit the entire week and not stink it up. And that's because you actually were changing clothes, and we didn't know that. And then when we asked you, you didn't even admit it. Yeah. So yeah, that was very, very cool of you to do that.
But I can say that out of all the various like clothing, that's one of the things that I'm most intentional about. I hate getting hot. I hate getting cold. I love being prepared.
Well, you sold me, and if I could get them as a sponsor, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But I have yet to wear those clothes. But that's something that we should talk about. And you even brought that up years ago that should something you and I needed to talk about was more of an infield uniform instead of just constantly wearing BugMan shirts and stuff. That we should look more to a company uniform for in the field. So, and I agree with that, because whatever you had going on, dude, it worked for you, and it essentially worked for us, because none of us, I think, got stinky and smelly. I think we all did a really good job.
No, but if you can
of
go
maintaining
anywhere
that.
for a week, have a grab bag go for a week, and end up not stinking,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I've gotten really good. Now, on those trips, KC's is what saves me, because KC has my supply cache, and then KC throws all his stuff in on it as well. So when I go on a trip like that, I've got everything I need in a backpack. You know, I've got 7 days worth of clothes in my backpack. And I've always traveled like that. I've always been able, I went to Africa. My last trip to Africa was a 13-day trip, and I had everything I needed in a backpack. Yeah. I didn't have luggage. I actually had to buy luggage to send all my junk back in. Yeah. All my spent clothes that I didn't get rid of. Mm-hmm. All my spent clothes, and, dirty laundry and all that stuff. Anything that was expendable, I sent back through. But the insects and my film and, stuff that I couldn't live without, all that stuff came back in my backpack. That includes 2 full-size cameras, zoom lenses. I think I took 70 rolls of film with me on that.
Well, back
then you had to. And all that went in the backpack. So I've gotten really good at packing down to take those trips, but especially when it's just me. And most of my Arizona trips, even though I would travel with a group, be an entomologist or whatever, because not all my trips were entomology related. Whoever was for the sake of the group, I didn't want to be smelly and make people uncomfortable. But at the same time, I still had to travel in my limits and in my affordability. And I couldn't afford the best clothing, and I couldn't afford big luggage, and I couldn't afford all this cool stuff that everybody else seemed to have. Yeah. I couldn't even afford to go on those trips. The only reason I was there is because it was all expense paid. So it was neat to be able to teach myself how to downpack and downsize my travel to the point where that still pays off today. But to see somebody else do that for like one of the first times was pretty cool. But I still thought you had one. I still thought you had one outfit. So, there it is, man, right there. So, I don't think I played any part of that teaching yet how to do that, because you and I hadn't traveled much, at least enough to coordinate that out together. But it's neat to see that work for you, and that's something we do need to talk about, because I would like to look into some of that clothing for next time, because you were obviously comfortable and you didn't stink, and that's a plus for everybody. And then we maybe look at a sponsor someday down the line too. That might be fun. Either way, man, we got to end it here. We're way over time, and I don't want to drag this out, but I do want to end this here. So before we close it out, outside of goofiest things that we really can't think too much into, is there anything here to the end of this episode? Because we're going to do one more episode where we're going to talk about some odd things that I think people are going to like the next one too. So stay with us on these and catch this next one. But we're going to talk about the oddities of that are not related necessarily to anything, just some general random thoughts that are what's going on with us, about us, and some things that you and I have talked about over the years that maybe not everybody else gets to delve into. Things people may or may not know about us, on an individual basis, that we just happen to agree an awful lot about. And at the same time, I want to get into the future of where you and I want to go, not only individually, but again with the company, and where I'm planning on taking the BugMan LLC over the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, which I think folks are going to want to pick up on as well, because that's going to get into some kind of exciting stuff, because there's always stuff going on currently and present. There's things going on right now that people just don't know, and that's because they just haven't evolved enough that I can be sure those things are going to happen. So I don't brag a lot about them. I don't get in too deep on those things until I know that stuff's going to drop, and then we go there, because there's always stuff that hits and then it dies in the wastelands of waiting around for these things to happen. That's part of business, I think, nowadays, and definitely part of social media and the internet and technology nowadays. So there's always those wannabes and maybe going to happen that just don't happen. But there's a lot of things going on that are very big and very exciting down the road for this company that I expect are going to happen, that I expect will happen. Those are the exciting things. And we're going to talk about that in the next episode. Is there any other highlight, anything you want to touch on before we walk away from this and end this episode?
No, it's so hard because travel is so integral to our relationship and our hobbies that we could literally talk for days on just this topic. So not really. There's not one particular thing. Well,
I don't know when, and we're going to hit this on the next one. I don't know how much longer you're going to be in Texas. I would like to think that we'll be able to pull off a BugMan trip to Texas one of these days. I suspect there's not much going on in Laredo, but I would say we'll definitely go hit some of those, like Santa Ana and a few of those other places would be neat to do BugMan trips to. Been a long time since I've been there. That would be cool to go see those places too. So let's hope we can pull that off. And we'll talk a little bit about that on the next episode. So guys, for what it's worth, we're going to finish off too. We're way over time on this. Hopefully you're still with us. That makes it awesome. And I want to make sure that everybody is able to recognize we're coming back with at least one more episode. I suspect one more episode with Martin and I talking about just stuff. The next one is going to be pretty awesome because it's going to delve away from BugMan, hardline BugMan, and it may not even be talking all about bugs and insects. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of the other stuff and the other aspects that Martin and I enjoy and that we talk about often, but we do these things. We just do these things when we're not in front of a camera. We're going to delve into a few of those things and give you guys a little more insight. And hopefully you'll still like us at the end of the day. So either way, guys, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. We're gonna stop this right here and wish you guys come back for the next episode, guys. Take care. We'll see you. Hey man, be sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you like what's going on here and you enjoy it. Then help me out. All right. Thanks. I appreciate your support. Take care, guys.